Welcome to the Escape Room Experts Podcast, your source for tips, techniques, and strategies on how to approach escape rooms and how to use them for both fun and team building.
Hi, I'm Sandy Keene.
And I'm Tony Duckett.
And we are the Escape Room Experts coming to you from beautiful coastal Oceanside in California.
If you haven't been here, you should come. It's getting warm again.
Oh, it is beautiful, and the pier is looking great. My kids are almost ready to go swimming. It's still a little too cold for me. So today we're gonna talk corporate a little bit. Although I guess this is applicable to anything, but we want to talk a little bit about communication. One of the things that we see in the room is how people talk to each other.
And think about, she said to each other, right? Because communication is always bi-directional. Normally when people talk about communication, they're talking about you're not listening to me.
I say that often.
And people forget that communication is bi-directional. It is not only what you say to someone, but what they receive and vice versa.
Yeah, I actually, in my consulting business, one of my favorite things to say is, it doesn't matter what you say, the only thing that matters is what I hear.
Yes.
So you can, the example I use is, I tell my kids, you sit down at dinner, you're gonna eat your dinner, bust your plate, go upstairs, take a shower, do your homework, and go to bed, right? Dinner ends, and they say, Mom, can we watch TV? They heard nothing of what I said. It's like I was the adult in the Peanuts cartoon going, wah, 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 wah.
Well, I had a conversation with my team the other day, and I was trying to explain to them, and I run a rather large sales team, and I tried to explain to them you have to minimize the conversations when you talk about ranges of dollars and cents that affect a customer. Because if you say, look, you could save anywhere from $10 to $1,000, what the person heard you say is you can save me $1,000.
Absolutely.
Right? They didn't think it's going to be 12. They said it's going to be closer to that 1,000, right? So now if you only save them $46, you lied.
It doesn't look so good.
So you've got to be really careful the kind of information you use. But communication is, to your point, and the one we're both making is you absolutely have to make sure that it's being received correctly. So words are powerful.
Words are very powerful. So we thought we would tell you some stories about groups that we've seen in the room and what it told us about how they communicate. You want to start?
I will tell you a story about a group that came in not too long ago, and they were jumping around the room, and there was one person in the room who was very gregarious and energetic and saying lots of things. I can hear them talking through the wall, so I know what they're saying. I know they're off. But this person had a tendency, and we talked about kinds of people. Mm-hmm. This person had the energy and the attention of the room. So he was talking at people, and people were used to listening to him. So they did everything that he said. Only he was taking them down a rabbit hole that they couldn't get out of. Right? What he never did was listen to some of the other people who would actually, as he was saying, when he was saying, point to something else, but not have the voice to stop him.
The gravitas.
They couldn't. Yeah. They were correct, but that person wasn't heard. So you go down this rabbit hole, which will kill 15 minutes in a minute. They probably lost 20 minutes just following them down this hole when another person in the room already had the right answer. So when we talk about that bi-directional piece, the communication thing needs to be, I'm going to say something, people need to tell me what they heard and or what they think so that we make the right decisions.
Right, and that goes back to our whole collaborative thing.
Yeah.
Is when you're working in an escape room or when you're working in any business on any kind of project or what you do every day, mm-hmm. when other people are talking, it pays to listen to them because oftentimes people say things that are of value that can sometimes make your life easier, make your work easier, or can lead you in directions that you never thought of that may make things better.
Yeah, it's active listening. And we talked about that before, but active listening is really difficult for people to do. Most of us have been trained to wait for you to stop talking so I can say something too. So I usually miss all the context and the intent and all that others. I just hear words.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? Well, but that's true. People, that's listening to respond as opposed to listening to actually gather information.
Yeah.
And too many people do that. So inside the escape room, we can see that with the people who come in and they're not interested in what anybody else thinks because they've got it. Mm-hmm. The problem is those people usually aren't the ones that have it. You
know, you can have someone who has the power in the room and the personality be the one that leads you to the right place too. They can get you to the promised land. But just because you have that kind of personality doesn't mean that you have the right answers.
Yeah.
So I think when we start talking about communication, one of the things I want folks to be able to do is to say, hey, this is what I think. Because you're going into a room and no one knows anything, nope. Right? It's just a bunch of opinion and positioning. So everyone should have an opportunity to voice their thoughts and then follow the path that seems to be the most reasonable or the most connected to the room.
And that isn't just in a business environment when you're doing team building, but that also goes in a family. Because oftentimes what we see in the room is the kids are so used to deferring to the parents, and the parents are so used to telling the kids what to do, that the kids find stuff and have answers and solutions, and the parents are like, nah, I can't be that. And they don't pay any attention. The person who, when you're in your business, you're least likely to listen to, when you get into an escape room, that shows up, and sometimes you can really see what you're missing by not listening to them.
And in business, there should be no one in your business you don't want to listen to, because good ideas come from the weirdest places.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, I've told you that story about when I was playing basketball, and then this young kid walks up to me, and this guy is eating my lunch. He's just destroying me, and he shouldn't have been, because he really wasn't that good. And all day I had been teaching in this camp. I've been teaching kids how to identify people's strengths and take away their strengths and make them do something they're not comfortable doing. And this 8-year-old walks over to me and says, hey, coach. And I'm like, look, you need to go back up in the stands because I don't want you to get hurt. He says, but coach, and he kept picking at me, and I'm trying to get him off the court because I'm frustrated. And he finally just bursts it out. He says, then I was telling those guys that you said that you should never let somebody beat you with the same move over and over. Isn't that what you said? And I said, yeah, go back up in the stands. But when he left me, I was struck with the fact that this guy had been beating me with the same move. Now, my communication was really poor then because I wasn't receiving his message.
Yeah.
I did receive it then. It changed, and I owe that kid probably an ice cream cone.
He's probably not 8 years old anymore, though.
Maybe he doesn't want ice cream. He probably wants a car.
Yeah.
Right? But he's not getting that either. No, but really what we have to do is you don't know where your answers are going to come from. You don't know where good information is going to come from. So being receptive and being open and creating an environment, a safe environment for people to share ideas in a business is always important.
Yep. So the flip side of that, because listening is really important. And if you're a leader in the room, you want to make it a point to make sure you're listening to everybody, because that is active listening. Mm-hmm. But what if you're the person who doesn't have a big voice and you go in, just like at work, you know that's not your strong suit. Maybe you're shy, maybe you're intimidated. Mm-hmm. We had one group that came in, and we didn't realize until after they left that they brought somebody in to play in an escape room on their first day at work. Actually, there were two. It was a big group. I think there were like 18 people, and they took 2 rooms, and there were 2 people who it was their first day. In one room was somebody who loved the idea of an escape room. And so they were talking up a storm, and they were like, look at this and look at this. And everybody was really excited. The other room was kind of different. She was very intimidated by the fact that she was in this room. Mm-hmm. And she kind of hung back to herself, and nobody in the room did a good job of drawing her out to see what she could contribute. And at the end, when we sat down and talked about it, there were things that she knew. And she readily spoke up and said, I wasn't comfortable sharing my ideas and my thoughts about what was happening in the room. So whose fault is that?
Yes. The answer to that is yes. So a good leader draws people out. Even if, and a person who is smart, if you accept a position in a company and you're smart, then we expect you to be smart.
Yeah, you have to use your voice.
If it's not, you don't have to be the one that says it, but you need to get that idea on the table. You need to befriend someone who will say it. You need to write it down and put it on a check. But somehow you have to use the skills we hired you to use and get them on the table. So the answer to who's wrong, there's plenty of blame to go there.
Yeah.
But if you don't get what you want in this world and people don't give it to you, then the people who didn't give it to you have stopped you. But if you didn't go after it, you're just as guilty.
And odds are that woman didn't go into her job interview and go, I'm really shy and afraid to speak up. Because I know that's not typically the type of person that I look to hire, mm-hmm. right? But it would have benefited her when they went into the room to let somebody know, hey, this is my first day and I'm a little nervous. So, I'm probably not going to talk that much. Can I share with you if I see something and you can bring it to the group?
Right.
Because that's going back to collaboration, working together and finding your buddy that you can work with. But I agree with you on your yes answer, but I think it was more her fault than it was anybody else's fault. Everybody went into that room and was very excited.
Right.
So they weren't thinking, hey, new girl, maybe we should draw her in.
But you have to be.
Yeah.
So you when you're trying to solve a problem, you have to be aware of everyone that's around you. I agree that maybe I'll give her a little bit more, but at the end of the day, if it's my team and I see someone if I invited you in because you're going to help me solve a problem, I brought you here for a reason.
Right.
I need to get something out of it. So there's enough blame to go around.
What if the boss isn't in the room? What if it's just coworkers?
Well, coworkers solving problems doesn't need a boss in the room.
No, it doesn't.
But so it's still the same. But I think this communication thing is. We've also had people come in and select which employees they were going to use as a hiring mechanism. So this group, and we didn't know this was going on, by the way. So we ultimately, if you were the person they did not select, do not blame us. We didn't know. But this was an advertising firm. They brought 2 people in.
3. They did it 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and we didn't know what they were doing because they kept doing different rooms. And then they came back after the 3rd and said, well, we're trying to hire some people. And they told us what the people had on because I usually recognize what people had on.
Right. There was one person in each of the 3 rooms who was a candidate. What
did you think of those people? And the answer wasn't that I don't think they're good. The question, what I saw in the room, when one of them was withdrawn, one that was engaged, the other one was super vocal but off on their own. And the question is, what do you need in your organization? Right. So they were looking for a specific kind of person. And what we were able to do is say, based on the encounter that we saw, here's what we found out about that person in that specific encounter. It wasn't the reason the person got hired, but it was one of the elements.
Yeah. So really the idea of communication in an escape room, once again, goes back to being that microcosm of a macrocosm. Because what you see when you put people into an environment which is a complete unknown, people's personalities really do come out, and their communication skills are in fact part of their personality. Somebody on their first day, maybe they'll warm up and it would be easier, but I really believe that looking at how people interact in an escape room can give you information about the areas that you need to work on in your organization.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting is, as much as you think you know how to do your job at work, if it was the same thing over and over again, they wouldn't need us there. So there's always some idiosyncrasies and new things that pop up at work. So at work, you're really a problem solver, sometimes in the same kind of area, but things aren't the same all the time.
No.
And sometimes you don't know what's going to come up. So this level of communication and forced interaction is not unlike what we deal with in the work environment anyway. That's why I love this so much.
Yep. So, and we're going to bring in some people who have used escape rooms to help get their teams better at the things they need to do. And we're going to talk to them in future podcasts about how they've taken the information and then translated it into putting together different types of training and stuff like that. So we'll be having a lot more conversations about communication.
That'll be fun. You guys will learn a lot about that because, look, obviously we know what it's supposed to do, but when you see what it actually has done for people, that'll change the way you look at these.
Yeah. So until then, I'm Sandy Keene.
And I'm Tony Duckett.
We are the Escape Room Experts. Have a good one.
Take care.